Welcome to Merkaba Chakras, where we talk Buddhism in the fifth dimension.
Welcome to another episode of Merkaba Chakras podcast. Today, we get the privilege to talk to Fifth Dimensional Shop with Zarathustra. Now, Zarathustra is the founder of Fifth Dimensional Quantum Healing and Awareness. He is a spiritual teacher and master healer who lives his life in the truth of now and has dedicated his life to elevating human consciousness. He travels the world offering teachings on how to connect with your higher self, which is the consciousness of Source itself inside everyone, and how to facilitate your own 5D healing through his psychic surgery workshops and consciousness workshops. So, with that, let's welcome Zarathustra. Zara, welcome to Merkaba Chakras.
Well, thank you for having me, Ron. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I got a little bit to talk to you about, and I have been following spiritual work basically my whole life, and many different people's work as well. And I've been following some of yours as well. And very few do I get to talk about these very high vibe topics about parallel realities. So this one is a treat for me and people who are very affected by personal Mandela effects. So, as I always say, there are many ways that we can dive deeper into the fifth dimension, parallel reality Earth, and there's nobody better to talk to than another multi-dimensional version of myself. So, and yourself. So, with that, let's first go and rewind to how it all began for you. Can you tell us your story for how you got into this work in the first place?
Well, I was always a spiritual seeker, and I had a deep love of God. And the main calling sort of started it in 1989, and it started to get intensify. And I ended up going in search of self-realization and God realization to India in 1992. And I found my spiritual teacher, Punjaji, and I got exposed to Advaita Vedanta teachings. And then the journey began. There was a lot of ups and downs, and then coming back to the West, you it's kind of sort of an expansion and contraction of consciousness. You get to a point that you feel like you're not going forward anymore. And there was a point that I was like, okay, I'm done with this, and I need to go back into the marketplace and make some money and make a living. And so I went into insurance industry, and I was in insurance sales and management for 20 years. And but when you're hooked, and the source wants you to come back on this path or lead you and become a spiritual teacher, somehow other things don't work out, and everything leads you to this path because you can't escape your destiny. Anyway, sometimes in 2007, I went to Brazil, and I spent 6 months at John of God's village. I don't know if you know about John of God, the infamous healer. And after I came back to the US, a year after that, I believe, these entities, these beings started to come through. And I was never into channeling. I was never into prophesizing or the entities or being connected or saying I'm connected to the angels or things like that. It was never my thing. I was very much hands-on, practical. Even in my spirituality, I lived in Sedona for 9 years, Sedona, Arizona. I don't know if you know about it. It's a spiritual mecca.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And all of my friends were healers and psychics and channelers, and even though I had very strong spiritual experiences, I stayed away from that. It wasn't my thing. But now, all of a sudden, I'm having these beings, these entities, guides, literally taking over, and
Let me ask you
coming.
something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me ask you something about that before you get too far into um, the story. So, what is it? What is it like having kind of like the knocking at the door? Hello, we're here. Hello, we want to talk to you. What is that like? Because I get this. I get this because I myself am not so much into channeling the material or this and that. Um, the truth is either going to be integrated or it's not going to. That's how it's going to come out. So, I own what comes out of myself,
Right.
but on the flip side, for people who are, you know, a medium for material and for a message from other beings, another version of themselves. What is that? What is that like? So you eventually answer the knocking.
Well, I didn't have a choice. So, for about a period of 3 or 4 months, I keep hearing uh, healing, healing. I keep hearing healing, healing, but the whisper. I'm hearing this whisper, healing, healing, and I'm ignoring it. But the healing energy comes, and uh, I'm in a party, I'm in a gathering, and then and that wasn't very professional what I was doing. It wasn't the right way of doing it, but that's what it was happening in a moment. I would run into somebody that I never met, and I knew a lot about them, and I would just start channeling to them things about them. Sometimes they liked it, sometimes they freaked out. Sometimes I would just put my hand on their back, and all of a sudden, healing energy would happen to them, whether they permitted me to do it or not. Again, it wasn't very professional. And this healing energy was very powerfully coming through, and it wanted to get transferred to other people, and it wasn't joking around. So that was one part happening. The other part was like I keep hearing this voice. So finally, after a few months, I said, okay, healing. So what? What do you want me to do? And then I hear that they're saying, go make a business card. Go make a business card. Make a business card. I keep hearing this, and it's bugging me. You know, I get to a point that I'm annoyed. And I go, okay, all right, I'll go make a business card. What do you want me to write? And then they say, write healing. And then 2 days after, quantum healing. Then fifth dimensional quantum healing. And I'm like, what the hell is fifth dimensional quantum healing? I can't even spell fifth dimension, dimensional. I need to learn how to spell it, less alone go make a business card, pass it around to people saying I'm a fifth dimensional quantum healer. What the hell is fifth dimensional quantum healer? They then the next thing is go on internet and research it. I go on internet and I type it in. There's nothing such as that. There is healing, there's quantum healing, there is fifth dimension, but there is no fifth dimensional quantum healing. I say it's not there. They said we know it's not there because you're going to create it. So anyway, I start researching what is fifth dimension, what is quantum healing, and finally I make a business card called Fifth Dimensional Quantum Healing, and healer, fifth dimensional quantum healer. And as this is happening, every source of income I had is shutting down.
What's that like? Because that could be a little bit of a scary
Oh, it's
process.
very frightening. Very, very frightening. And in the meantime, as this is happening, I'm run into this woman in a festival, and her and I connect, and I mean she's saying she knows me. Hi, how are you, Zarathustra? Da, 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 give me a hug. And there's this beautiful tall red hair, And I'm not going to say, I don't know you. A beautiful red hair wants to give me a hug. I say, yes, hi. We hug. We're in a festival, and, we're holding for each other, embracing each other for, let's say, 30 seconds. After that, I say, oh, da, 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 what's your name? And all of this, she knew my name. And then we say goodbye. I run into her half an hour after, and she says, Zarathustra, can you put your hand on my shoulder near my spine? Because something happened to me. And I put my hand there, I hold my hand for 5 minutes. And then she says, can I have your phone number? So we exchange phone numbers. 2 days after, she sends me a message. She says, look, I don't know what you did to me, but I had major issues with my spine, and the pain is gone. Is there any way you're willing to meet me and give me a healing session? This is all happening simultaneously as I have these entities talking to me, and all my avenues of making an income are shutting down. So we met, we talk about, she offers me if I would want to do a group healing at her house, and she would introduce me to her community. So the door's opening up, something's shutting down, something else is opening up. While this is happening, these beings, these entities that are identifying themselves as my fifth dimensional guides, they take over. And a weird phenomena happens, which wasn't fun, it wasn't groovy. People say, when I explain it to you, some people says, oh, that was really cool. There was nothing cool about it. I am lying down on my bed in my loft in Venice Beach for 3 weeks, and I'm not awake and I'm not asleep. I just knew information is being downloaded in me. For 3 weeks, I have no idea how I ate, how I went to the bathroom, how I washed myself, cleaned myself. I have no recollection of any kind of physical activities or taking care of myself.
Did you live by yourself or?
I lived by myself. All I
Okay.
know is lying down on a bed and information is getting downloaded continuously for 3 weeks nonstop. And it was the most exhausting experience because you're not asleep and you're not awake. So it's exhaustion beyond imagination. And after the 3 weeks that they left, my third eye was activated.
What was that like?
It was a horrible experience in the beginning because I started to hear everybody's thoughts.
Oh, goodness. What's that like? Now, this is the stuff that people want to hear because there are people having these exact experiences, not in
Right.
the sequence that you had, but maybe one
Right.
moment or one of these sequences. So people are thinking they're going mad or, they're going and seeing a
Yeah.
doctor. And so tell them, what is that like? Because everybody thinks the spiritual experience is this wonderful thing where you hear all these wonderful melodies and et cetera, et cetera. And that's not always the case.
Right. No, that's the romantic part of it. Uh, and eventually down the line, if you're on the right path, it leads you to bliss, but not necessarily when you're getting activated and going through it. It's not pleasant. It may be pleasant for some people. Everybody has their own experience, but this was not a pleasant experience. I thought I'm going to go crazy. Because imagine, when you have mind bombardment and you get some bad news and your mind is going crazy, or you don't know you have no training of observing your thoughts, and you're totally identified with your thoughts, and you really believe your mind is who you are. Your mind by itself is a handful and drives most people crazy. Now imagine you're hearing everybody else's thoughts on top of it. It's pure madness.
That is just
It's
that is
totally
just
crazy.
madness. That
Yeah, I thought I'm going to go crazy. I wanted to just shoot myself. I was praying very strongly to Her Majesty to stop it. And uh, and that wasn't the only thing that happened. I could just see uh, path lines of people or their past and their lineage and where they're coming from, and I was getting a lot of information. So thank God, through the grace, I was able to shut that down, and and I didn't want to be able to hear people's thoughts. So
Let me
it's
ask you something, Zarathustra. What were the common thoughts that you heard about people that they were
well,
thinking?
it's chaotic. You're not able to. I wasn't at the place to be able to focus on one person's thoughts and read their thoughts. It was you need training for that. You need to be trained on it, and it
Mm.
was too chaotic for me to be able to do that. But what happened is after that, after everything calmed down and I was able to gain some sort of control, or at least appears to have some kind of control, um, what happened is I realized that I was clairsentient and claircognizant from childhood. I didn't know these abilities. I had no idea I had them. My mother was a very powerful clairsentient. Um, a very strong psychic. I didn't know any of these things. I didn't know the words. I didn't know how you explain it. And what happened was I realized that this ability of if I'm hanging out with somebody and they're in my field, they're close to me, then I can pick up on the content of their thoughts or pick up on where they're at, what mood. It doesn't matter what they show to me. I could pick them up on their feelings and their sensations, so or read them uh, if I really tuned into it. So
Right.
eventually, you learn to kind of disconnect. When you become a professional and you do this professionally and you get paid for it, then you learn to disconnect and only come into disabilities when you're in a professional setting and you're working. The rest of the time, I don't want to have anything to do with it. And I want to live like a normal person.
Right. I have a question for you about that. Because there was a couple of different things that kind of popped into my mind. First of all, you said that you had these experiences when you were a kid, and you've always had them, but now they're amplified in this spiritual awakening experience that you were having, and in a mass download for 3 weeks. So, what was it like as a kid that was extrasensory?
Well, you're very sensitive, but no one's training you and telling you anything because you're growing up in a mainstream family, and there's no support. And if you bring these kind of things up, they deny it, or they shut you down, or they tell you you're imagining things.
Right, right. I will say this for a lot of the parents right now, because I get parents that reach out to me, you know, through my hypnosis practice, and through my books, that they have children with these extrasensory abilities. They're getting stronger. They don't know how to, be the best parent for these children. How can they help them to adjust with these abilities, because they're
Mm.
not going to be suppressed or go away. And so they've looked to their pastor. They've looked to their church. They're getting almost like people are scared of them and their children, and
Right,
so they look everywhere and they find people like you, they find people like me going, this is normal. This is just an extra ability that you have that not everybody has. Like some people can jump taller than other people. It doesn't make them anything more than that they just have an
right.
extra ability. So, what do you say to those parents who have children that had the same childhood almost than you had? What do you say to those parents to
Well,
kind of
it
help them
depends.
out?
Depends if they're conscious. If they're conscious parents, they know about awareness. It's a different story to approach their kids, but basically not shutting them down and denying just because you don't understand something and it's out of your paradigm of your own personal reality. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So, uh, being open and not
Right.
shutting the kids down right away as if they're crazy or they're imagining. Just having some sort of openness to it.
Right. That is, I mean, that is such a good thing to hear from a child who grew up with disability and then they had this very intense experience later on. Good thing that you had it later on as an adult and not as a child. But
Yeah.
some children have it as a child, and the parents don't know what to do besides medicate it away.
Yes, it's very unfortunate. It is happening. It is a part of life. It's our reality right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to hope that maybe some parents they come to some sort of awakening or some kind of awareness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, these
I,
are leading edge children. So now your experience, now you're going into the
so
work.
so after 3 weeks they left, and I go back to normal life. Thank God, because my parents thought I was crazy. Something seriously happened to me, and uh, and obviously, if it continued, I probably would end up in some kind of mental institution because they didn't know what happened to me. How come I disappeared or I'm not communicating? I don't know how we communicated in that time. I have no recollection of that 3 weeks of what happened. Zero. But they leave and life goes back to normal or semi, not really normal, but at least I come to be conscious again. And they come back 3 weeks after.
Oh boy.
Right. And they come back and the same thing happens. So I'm lying down on my bed in my loft in Venice Beach for another 3 weeks and the information starts to download again. And on the second round, my right hand turns into a high frequency transmitter. So it gives me the ability to read if I put my hand on someone's body to get information, and was able to do psychic surgery. So, uh, which was huge. It was very big of what happened. And of course, that was the birth of my healing career. And with the help of this lady, her and her partner, they opened up their home to me and they introduced me to Los Angeles community. So I started to hold some events at their home, and things were getting bigger. And I realized I need to have a more professional outfit. So I started to rent a place and having events there, and that was just it started it from there.
Wow, wow. So you finally came into um, your mastery of this craft. Now, I do hypnosis here in Seattle, and I have clients who speak to the oversoul through them about their journey. And often, some of the people in their soul group are reincarnations of previous family members and friends. Can you elaborate on your perspective on reincarnation and your connection to Zoroaster himself?
Uh, yeah, well, which part? Maybe I begin to start with the reincarnation you mentioned about some of these people that you have interviewed. They had previous lives with the same family members and they've coming back to it. So um, the concept of reincarnation is very, very interesting. So it all depends, reincarnation, it depends from what level of consciousness you're encountering it. So there is two, I can only put it in two levels, for example, for simplicity. One is the apparent life, the life that appears to be, the life that you're in it, and in this life you have a free will and you can choose and you do things. You make mistakes or you do something good, and there is consequences to your actions. In the apparent life, what appears that you are, and as an individual entity separated from everything else. So if we want to look at it that way, then you're responsible for your actions because you are on your own, and if you do something crazy or stupid, then you're going to have to pay for it.
Right. So you
But
don't get away with it.
yeah,
Eventually it comes
that
back to you.
yeah, but that is one perspective.
Mhm.
The other one is the absolute reality that how can you be separated from the source? So that how can you have your own free will without the connection to the source? Because if you're going to have your own free will, that means you're separated from life. You're on your own, right? So
Right.
it's like if you look at the wave, you see these waves appearing, and there's a beginning of it, and the wave really appears, and it goes pretty high up, and then the wave falls back to what? Falls back into the ocean, right?
Right. Right.
Is the wave separated from the ocean?
Right. Yeah, we're all fractals, we're all Mandelbrot sets of each
Right.
other.
So 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 the question is the wave separated from the ocean? No, the wave is the ocean. And it's the ocean that turns to a wave. So the incarnation back, so where do I go after I die? Wouldn't I don't I go back to the source where I came from?
Right. Right.
Right. So what's the difference between me and my source? So it's like you have a cup, you have a glass, and you fill it. I put it in the ocean. I put my glass in the ocean and I fill it up with ocean water. So let's say I just did that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is this water? Is this water different than the ocean? It,
No, no,
it,
because
it's the ocean water, right?
right.
So if so, so it has all the qualities of the ocean, but it's a lot smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not separated from the ocean. It just for now it's separated.
Right.
And then when it evaporates or I pour it back, let's say the glass breaks, I die, the body's no longer, where does this water go? It goes back into the ocean.
Right. Right.
So
So
now so now how are you going to separate that water in the ocean to give someone an individual karma that they're going to reincarnate? What part of this water is going to reincarnate
mm-hmm.
when it goes back and dissolves into the ocean? Are you going to find it again? Where is it going to be?
Right. Right.
You understand?
Yeah, we're all having individual experiences for our own intensive purposes, but at the very end of the day, it's all connected and it's all one.
Exactly.
It's just source. It's just source. Source is having a multitude of experiences all at the same time, having this
Beautiful.
little piece and that little piece, being Vaughn, being Zarathustra, being et cetera, et cetera. And at the end of the day, it all goes back and it integrates itself as another experience of the whole. Just
Uh,
like we have integrated experience, we have different experiences in our lives. And if we just look at our experiences in our life, they seem like individual experiences, but when you put it all together, it makes one person.
Absolutely.
Right.
100%.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. Are all the master or many master teachers incarnating at this time to help humanity with the shift further into the fifth dimension? I mean, are we getting lots of help? I mean, you're here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if all the masters, I do know from what I've been told. I mean, it's not my direct experience. It's just the message that comes to me. Well, I guess I can call it a direct experience, but uh, apparently, at the moment, there is about 155,000 angels of light hovering around the planet, and they're keeping an eye on this planet.
Mhm. And what makes this planet, because there's going to be people who's going to be like, oh, humanity is so horrible and Earth is so horrible, and they have all these dire outlooks. What about Earth and the inhabitants of Earth makes it so special that this is happening?
Right. Well, the incarnating as a human being is into the divine administration is the highest level that you can enter to. So you have graduated from all these other levels, from the light beings, all these other beings. Humans are the only ones that you can, in order to go to the next level and dissolve into the oneness, is you have to come as a human being.
Can you
A human,
explain that further for people to understand? Like, why not, be a Pleiadian or be a dolphin or whatever else? Because
right,
a lot of people see humans as this low level animal, and they have a very low perception of humans and humanity. So, what can you explain? Because you just said
yeah,
something completely different than what some people believe in about
right,
themselves.
right. Well, the you have gone through all these other stages because you haven't been in third dimension. You haven't entered into the level of duality with five senses. This is the level of duality because everything has its own opposites. Nothing can exist here without its opposite. So you have to come to this place of duality and master it. And in order to master it means to rise above it, to go beyond the good and bad. So this is a school, this is a train, this is not a bad place. People thinking, okay, we want to destroy the system.
Right.
Number one, the system's never going to be destroyed. Now, this leads to people saying that this earth is not good or whatever. You don't change this earth. Leave the earth alone. Okay? Work on yourself to raise your vibrations to a higher frequency. Then you find yourself in a similar earth without these struggles that a lot of people are going through, or the struggles you were going through. All of a sudden those struggles are not there anymore. It's
Right.
it's still the same earth. It still follows the laws of gravity. So if I
Hmm.
pick up this pen and I drop it, it's going to fall down. But it's slightly a different reality. It's a more happy life you're living in. It's things are a lot smoother. The quality of people you meet high uh,
High vibe. I
high
call them high
vibe
vibe.
people. Yeah, and you don't run into the gang members.
Yes.
They're all in the same space. They're all occupying the same space. They're just not in your reality anymore. So you've changed yourself. You don't need to change the physical world. Just work on yourself.
Yes.
It's yeah, it's an inside job.
It is an inside job,
It is an
Zarathustra.
inside job.
That is so
Yeah,
important.
it is an inside job. What most spiritual seekers are making the mistake is they're too focused on what's wrong with the earth. So their attention is on the wrong stuff, the bad stuff. That's what they're protesting against and they're working on.
So they're getting
Rather,
more bad.
exactly, that becomes your reality because you're focused on it versus doing an inner journey, versus bringing your attention and working on yourself to discover inner stillness, to become quiet, to dive into your heart, and to dive into the love which is within yourself. Then you start to see that, oh my God, the soulmate that I was looking for is over here. I'm falling in love with God, which is here. And then you start falling in love with people, and people fall in love with you. And all of a sudden, your life is changed because you're focused on the love within, and you're not angry trying to find love outside because it's not really outside, it's inside yourself. And what's outside is a reflection of what's going on inside you. So if you're focused on negative and you're angry and you want to protest and you want to change this and that, well, that becomes your reality, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And that is also a learning lesson for, like you said earlier, everybody's got different classes and they're working on different lessons to graduate to the next level. But if those come into, if they're not looking for it and it comes into their reality, then maybe that's a lesson for them to go through. But
absolutely.
if it doesn't come into your reality, it's probably not a lesson for you to go through. So don't go and seek it. Um,
Yes. Yeah,
yeah,
and trust that what you need will always come to you, because this life is governed by Her Majesty. It's the supreme being that governs this.
right,
So we as human beings are a little bit ignorant, because we think that, oh, I need to co create with God and I need to fix things. Dude, where were you 100 years ago? Who was running the show?
right,
Who is turning day to night? Who's turning the seasons from autumn to winter and spring and summer? Who's willing to this planet to turn around itself and turn around the planet's sun? Who's operating this? And who was operating it before you were born, and who's going to operate it after you die? So this is really not your business. Leave this to God. Trust that God takes care of everything, and just work on yourself.
right.
Discover inner love.
Right. It's inside job. It's definitely an inside job. And if you want to change the reflection in the mirror, you have to smile first. Have to
Exactly.
smile first. The
Yeah,
reflection is not going to smile back at you. You do the smiling. It's so simple, and people forget that. Now,
exactly.
let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on the belief of and desire to manifest Armageddon by doomsdayers?
The desire to manifest Armageddon.
There is quite a bit of people, especially in the
Right,
West, they have the belief in Armageddon, doomsday,
right.
all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff,
right.
and they spend
Okay.
their whole
Yeah,
life in it. What is your
yeah,
thought on those?
exactly. And the whole movie industry is supporting it and doing it. Look, if that comes from anyone who hasn't discovered God in their heart, God is the only thing there is, my dear. She's the boss. If she wills for Armageddon, then I welcome it 100%. Again, who created this world? Let's leave creation to the creator.
Yeah,
Someone has created this. Somebody has brought you to this life. Someone's going to take you out of this life, gave you breath, and is going to take your breath away, and the body's going to die. So, if Her Majesty, the Supreme Being, chooses for that event to happen, clearly there is another plan for us to go to a different place.
right, right.
If
You know,
so, I leave this alone, because this is coming from people who don't trust. They're not trusting life. They don't trust God. They don't feel God in their heart. I have God in me. I have no fear of anything. The day I was born was set, and the day I'm going to die is set. I've had 5 near death experiences. 3 of them, I should have been dead. It took a major miracle for me not to die. So I trust the Maker who has brought me here and does healing work or spiritual transmission through me is the same one who's going to take care of the rest of it. So I stay out of that business completely.
that's really, really great words of wisdom. You know, um, we are really birthing a new society with new humans and a new way to live with consciousness, and to experience this incarnation, because it's not a slave planet. People are not horrible beings. Earth is not this horrible place or rock to live in. And if you see the opposite of it, humans are very gentle, very loving, very caring. Yes, we struggle. Yes, we're going to learn really hard, like children do learn really hard sometimes. and we have a beautiful planet to live in. If you look at the other planets in our own solar system, you wouldn't even want to
Oh,
spend your time
no,
going
no
there.
way. No, you don't even want to be there for a month. I mean,
Yeah, I know. I know. We're gonna spend all this time going to Mars, which is a fun pursuit, I'm sure. But I'm sure you wouldn't want to live in Mars and a desert planet. You'd rather be in the tropics of Earth.
exactly. Absolutely.
Yes, and
Absolutely.
and so we are so blessed to have such a beautiful home to call our spaceship Earth, to have a beautiful variety of people to learn and grow and go through the fifth dimension as we dive deeper with Earth into. So we are really, really lucky, and all of that other perspective does not have that connection to source, because if you have that connection to source and higher self, like you say, that is what is in store for us now and will continue to grow. Now, with that, what last message do you have for people as they're going through this experience?
Stay in your heart. Be quiet. Learn to be silent. The more you're quiet inside, the less you're involved with mental activities, the more you begin to feel the presence. Because she's here. She's always dancing around you, singing around you, playing around you. God is always here. He's just waiting to be discovered. And there's tremendous power in self-realization, God realization, because we come from land of love. And our mission on this planet is to be an embodiment of love. That's our power. Now, when you get involved with mental activities, you fall into fear. And then you lose your power because you become very small. You're no longer a spiritual giant. You become an itty bitty thing because you forget who you are. You represent God on this planet. And when you have God inside you, no army, I don't care what it is, how powerful it seems to be, how mean looking it is, all beings come and bow at the presence of Her Majesty.
Right, right.
So
And
when you're in that place, nothing can harm you. Nothing can ever touch you.
right. Very
Because all these other things, they derive from the source. So you become the embodiment of the source. Anything else dark is coming from the source. So they have to bow at the presence of the enlightened being.
yeah. That is so good, and I welcome more enlightened people to embody the source within. It is a leading edge experience. It really, really is. Um, and when you do these things, like do the inside job, you know, work on your inner wellness, increase your frequency, and all these different things. Every day is wondrous, and you not only change yourself, but you actually affect the matrix.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. That's your biggest contribution to the world is to discover inner peace. Inner peace, you know. People are activists and they want peace in the world, but they're coming from anger. So, how can you expect peace if you haven't discovered it within yourself? So,
right,
you have to start with yourself.
right. Exactly. Exactly. The inner
Wonderful.
peace reflects outwards. Zarathustra, we barely scratched the surface of this. I would love to have you again on so we can carry on this conversation. But we presented plenty of solid concepts for people to kind of gnaw on for now. And if anyone is interested in more on his workshops on consciousness and integrating the higher self into your leading edge experience of the matrix, you can go to his website, which is zarathustra.tv. and get all the information there, plenty for the new spiritual seeker and even for the advanced student who is really going down and the rabbit hole and changing reality and making it more fluid for themselves. So as you get mastery of your own reality, he has plenty for those students as well. So that you're not going to get bored. And
And there's a lot of free content, meditations, videos, uh, as well as I'm having an upcoming event. It's a free online global self-awakening retreat that I'm offering to my brothers, sisters from all over the world. That's starting on October 10th to the 18th, and it's 2 hours a day for 9 days. And it's
wow.
absolutely free. All you have to do is come on my website, zarathustra.tv, and go to event calendar and then register there, and we'll send you a link. So it's going to be for 9 days, October 10th to 18th.
Yeah, that is really, really good content, you guys. So really go there. Thank you so much for a fantastic interview. I love the conversation. So juicy. It's completely down my aisle. And for everyone else, thank you so much for listening to another enlightening conversation. Until next time, blessings.
Blessings to you. Thank you very much for having me, Vaughn.
You're welcome.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Merkaba Chakras, where we talk Buddhism in the fifth dimension. For more information about today's guest, please go to the show description. For more information about Vaughn's metaphysical work, please go to merkabachakras.com. The views expressed today are for entertainment purposes and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host or replace any medical or legal advice. Don't forget to subscribe for more interviews about the fifth dimension. Until we meet again, blessings.